Even doing exercise for a short amount of time reminds you that like you are worth taking care of, right? It helps you remember that moms spend a lot of time caring for everyone else. That's just part of the job. But taking a few minutes to say, my body deserves to be cared for, my mind deserves a break, my self deserves to be cared for. I think it just speaks volumes when we can do that for ourselves and we're not necessarily depending on other people to do it. And I think that's what exercise does. It gives you a space to take care of yourself and to believe in yourself.
You're listening to the What the Gut podcast, where busy moms can come for a holistic approach to health and vitality. I'm Allison, your host, a holistic health and wellness coach. In this space, we'll dive into the intricacies of achieving holistic wellness while balancing the demands of daily life as a busy mom. What the Gut is your haven for navigating the challenges that come with juggling numerous tasks while aiming for a healthier, more balanced life. Join me as we uncover practical solutions to common health hurdles, from managing fatigue to understanding all things gut health. Through insightful discussions, actionable insights, and tailored lifestyle strategies, my goal here is to empower you to embrace a vibrant, nourishing life while saying goodbye to being overwhelmed and exhausted. So if you're ready to embark on this transformative journey towards holistic well-being, hit that subscribe button. Get ready to discover the secrets to thriving in motherhood while nurturing your overall wellness. A quick reminder, everything discussed here is for educational and empowering purposes only and is not intended for personalized medical advice. Consult your personal healthcare provider for personalized medical advice. Welcome to What the Gut, where we create our own path to holistic health, one episode at a time. Today on the podcast, I have Becca Hill, who is a pregnancy and postpartum fitness coach with a background as a nurse practitioner. Join us on this conversation to talk about all things motherhood, health, wellness, and fitness. So, hey, Becca, how are you doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm so glad that it's pretty outside today and not too cold and sunny. Oh, it's awesome. Well, I'm so happy to have you here on the podcast today. And I just want to say, I have followed you on Instagram for a while. I guess it's been a couple of years, and your consistency in working out and showing up and being a mom is just really inspiring. So,
Yeah.
I tell you that.
I definitely felt like for a little while, especially like, while I was in the middle of having kids, that like the only thing I was doing was being consistent. There was not really any progress being made, but consistency was happening. So that was always the goal.
Yes, no. And do you have two or three?
I have three. I have a
Okay.
6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 3-year-old.
Okay. So I thought ours were kind of close. Mine are almost 9, 7, and 3.
You had a gap there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I would love for you to just kind of share about what you do and how you got into it and your story.
Absolutely, I would love to. So, I am a nurse by trade, a nurse practitioner technically, and I obviously like studied medicine and did that for a long time. But also, I tell people it's like two sides of the same coin. I've also loved fitness for like my whole life. I started exercising like regularly in high school with my mom, doing step aerobics at the all ladies gym with her. And just like, I just fell in love with it. I loved it. I kind of exercised on and off throughout college and then got more into it after college. So I've just been in the exercise fitness world for a really long time and have always super loved it. And so, kind of how I got into working with moms specifically is a couple of things. So, first off, I got pregnant. And at the time, I was doing CrossFit pretty consistently, 5 to 6 days a week. And I met with my doctor like the first appointment and kind of chatted with her. And she was asking me, like, what do you do? Do you exercise? Blah, blah. And I told her I did CrossFit. And she said to me, like, you should probably stop doing that. And I was just like, well, I don't want to stop. Two, like, what else will I do? And so I kind of realized it was going to be on me to kind of figure out how to do what I wanted to do in a way that was safe for like my body and my baby and everything. So that was kind of the first moment of like, okay, like there's a space for me to learn about this and I'm going to have to figure this out. And then I had my first baby and I remember I have this like distinct memory of like sitting in my bed with her, like, in the bassinet next to me, like, middle of the night when you're doing, like, the doomsday scrolling and you should be sleeping, but you're not sleeping, and I just remember I was searching Pinterest for, like, workouts, like, coming back from baby workouts, and I remember thinking, "I have, decades plus of knowledge at this point." I was a nurse, I was a labor and delivery nurse for a little while, I've been in fitness for my whole life. And I'm sitting here, like, feeling very out like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to, like, what steps I need to take to get back. Like, I wanted to do it the right way, but I didn't know what I was doing. And it just hit me that, like, if I feel this way, how much more does the average woman feel this way? Of like, at least I had some knowledge to kind of draw on. But the average woman is just kind of like left with a whole new body and no guidance to what to do with it. And so I just got really passionate about like meeting women right there where they're at in the years of having children, right after having children, and like when they're in the little stage of kids and being a busy mom and just like you wanna take care of your body, but you don't know what to do or how to do it. So that's kind of how I got started doing this.
Yes, I love that. I think that there definitely is such a need for that. And it seems like every single person that I talk to, their story could be so different from mine, but I still find a way to relate. And like, I just think that it's so crazy how sometimes we are in this situation where we literally have gone to school for something. Like we are educated on these things or have spent over a decade of our life, like really consistently practicing something. And then that ends up being the something that we really need. But like it's
Yeah.
the knowledge is not enough. Like we have to
Yeah,
actually do something with it.
right.
And that just keeps being reiterated to me over and over and over again throughout my life lately.
Yes.
So that's
That
just
is
it's
so true. It's so easy to have all of the head knowledge. It's a completely different thing to, like, know what to do with what you have. So,
yes, I
mhm,
completely agree. I just love that you meet moms where they are during those postpartum times, those
mhm.
moms of multiple kids, especially like just being so busy. Why do you think that it is so important for moms to make that time to find exercise for themselves?
Yeah, goodness. I think it's a really multifaceted answer, which is why I say goodness, because I think there's a lot of reasons. I think the first reason ultimately is that if you're just looking at the physiology, the physical part of your body has been through significant trauma, for lack of a better word. I mean, growing a human, having a baby, whether you had it via C-section or via like a traditional vaginal delivery, there's been a lot of change that has happened in your body. And I think just at a base level, physiological, physical level, your body needs intentional caring for. It needs specific work to be healed from all of that work. And what we see happen a lot is that people get pregnant back to back, obviously, I mean, just like me. And so it gets hard to do that when you're in the middle of all of it. But I think that it's really important just for our bodies to take the time to heal in a way that's going to set you up for success, for longevity in your life. And then I think coupled with that is two things. One is the mental space that working out provides for moms. It gives you a space where you can kind of like do something physical. You can kind of either get in or out of your head, whichever one you need at the time. And then it's this spiritual, holistic thing that it does. Even doing exercise for a short amount of time reminds you that, like, you are worth taking care of, right? It helps you remember that moms spend a lot of time caring for everyone else. That's just part of the job. But taking a few minutes to say, my body deserves to be cared for, my mind deserves a break, my self deserves to be cared for. I think it just speaks volumes when we can do that for ourselves and we're not necessarily depending on other people to do it. And I think that's what exercise does. It gives you a space to take care of yourself and to believe in yourself. So,
Yeah, for sure. With that, what are some ways that moms can really take care of themselves or exercise without really taking up a lot of their time if they are so busy?
yeah, I think the, like, number one way that moms can exercise, especially if you don't have a lot of time or resource, is walking. I think walking is beneficial in, like, a myriad of ways. It's going to hopefully get you outside. It's gonna provide space for you to think. It's going to provide space for you to move. Like, that is, like, the number one thing that I tell moms right after they have babies. Like, if you can't do anything else, like, if you can just get out and walk, that's gonna help you so much. And then the other thing is I think even if you don't have a lot of time, taking time to do some strength training is really important. I know a lot of women are afraid of it, but it is just so powerful. It's so good for our bodies to build muscle. It helps your metabolism. It helps you heal from pregnancy and postpartum, but it also again, like, teaches you and your mind and your heart and your body that, like, you are strong, and I think that's important as a mom too.
Yeah, I will say I don't have a fitness background like you do. I really, honestly, only started working out after my son was born, and he's
Sure.
about three and a half.
Mhm.
But after that, for a while, I just did a lot of like walking and exercise and cardio. But once I started doing that, like, your body responds to that so much differently than just walking. I mean, I
Uh-huh.
feel better in a different way, and that's also where I saw so much more progress with my body, and that wasn't even necessarily my goal. I was
Mhm.
really just trying to, like, mentally feel better, but that's whenever I really started seeing changes was whenever I started lifting weights and
Oh
doing
my gosh,
strength
yes.
training,
Mhm.
and I was like, "Okay, maybe
Yeah,
there's
I think
something
it's
to
like one of those,
this."
like, best kept secret. I think partially because our generation culturally is kind of cardio queens, we were all doing HIIT training or circuit
Oh,
like boot camps and cardio and running and stuff, and there's a place for all of that, but I think that we kind of just geared towards that more and less towards strength training, and then there's also the cultural idea that if I lift weights, then I'm gonna get bulky, and it, like, doesn't really matter how much you tell women that that's not true. They just like, it's out there, so people think it. But I do think it's like a secret weapon. It's like exactly what you're saying is like our bodies love it and it changes the way our bodies look. And that's what most people are looking for too. They just think that they're gonna have to like, cardio their way into it. And that's not necessarily true. So
right. I just know working so hard and kicking your butt every day to do cardio compared to doing like a strength training workout. It's not that it's easier, but you're exerting yourself in a different way.
yep.
And I know just doing cardio for however long is like so much more exhausting to me than lifting
Yeah.
weights.
And I'll tell you too, I mean, I think if we're talking about hormones and moms, especially if you're not sleeping very much, little kids, like your cortisol is going to be messed up like a little bit high. You're generally more stressed out. I mean, who's not overstimulated right now? I feel like I live like that. And doing a lot of cardio can really affect that, like, that can be poor for your body, and I know personally, I've gone through seasons where it's like I've really had to pull back because I will do some sort of kind of high intensity exercise, and I will find myself finishing the workout feeling very anxious, and that's because my hormones are not in line, and I think that's another beautiful thing about walking and strength training is, like, you can get in the movement that you need to get in, and it's not gonna add extra stress onto your body as far as your hormones, and adrenals and things like that go.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too. There is good stress and then
Yes.
negative stress, right? But especially those postpartum days, like where I feel like me, especially, like I was surviving off of coffee and I always tried to have my water too, right? Because if you're
Right.
breastfeeding too, you're like, I still have to make milk. Like you're making
Yep.
milk, you're feeding
Yep.
the baby. And if you have other kids, it's like you're doing all the things. And then if you want to move your body at all, for some reason our minds go to like, okay, well, I've got to like sweat and do this intense
Yeah.
cardio.
I just gotta, like, push myself and
And you're just like your cortisol is just, like, killing it. I mean, it's just
yeah.
going the charts, and that's just not ideal. So
Yeah, definitely not for, like, the long haul. Like you said, there's definitely, like, a place for it, and it's okay for different seasons, and there's been times in my life where, like, it hasn't bothered me at all. I've really just noticed it more as I think my general day-to-day life has become higher stress because of little people, you know? So,
yeah, I think it's all about listening to your body, but
yep.
knowing what's best for it, and, like, if you don't know, you don't know, but
Mhm.
weight training is good too. So,
Yes. Yep,
yeah.
100%.
So, what are some things that you really think are non-negotiable for health and motherhood, besides obviously fitting in your workout, or how often?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think exercise is super important as a mom. I think that, like, truly, like, shooting for, like, 3 days a week of exercise is, like, a reasonable amount for most moms. If you can get in some walks otherwise, that is a great thing to fit in, but, like, I would shoot for, 3 times a week that you're trying to get in some exercise. Other than that, the really tricky one is trying to have some sort of downtime or rest or sleep is super important, especially for moms. Obviously, we're a little bit out of control of that in different seasons, whether that's with toddlers that aren't sleeping or newborns. There are just going to be times where you're just not getting sleep, and there's not anything you can do about it. But even in those times, if you can find space to rest in between, like, I'm also not really a believer that you can sleep when the baby sleeps all the time, like in those newborn days. You can try, but especially if you have more than one kid, like you usually take care of somebody else. So trying to get in rest or sleep where you can, trying to get in 3 exercising days a week if you can. And then the other thing that I preach, baseline stuff, just like you held up your water bottle, getting in your water. Like I know that it's preached to us so much when you're breastfeeding, like drink, drink, drink. But then I think moms like really fall off after that. And I mean, I can't tell you how many moms I'll talk to that are like, I've literally only had coffee today. Like I had a cup when I got up this morning, and then like maybe I had a glass of water somewhere in between there, and then I had another cup of coffee in the afternoon. And it's tough to get it in, but getting in the right amount of water every day or enough water can just do a lot of help in like brain fog and feeling better and just like your overall energy and mood. So
Yeah,
it's kind
for
of my
sure.
theory. I'm preaching non-negotiables. It's like try to get your rest, try to get your exercise where you can, try to get your water.
Yeah, for sure.
If I had to add a fourth one in, I would tell women to walk, get your steps in, like try to walk and try to keep moving because what a lot of women don't know too is like for your body, especially if you're trying to get body changes, that it's less about your exercise period and more about your overall movement throughout the day. So even if that's like going for a walk for 5 or 10 minutes, like around the block before you eat your lunch at work or whatever, like increasing your overall daily movement is going to help you feel better overall. So
Yeah. And I just keep thinking about this, like moms of multiples, especially if some of the kids are older, a little older like ours are. I
yeah.
mean, you're going to be running around chasing them anyway.
Yes,
So you might as
you
well
are.
take them outside and
Uh-huh.
try to get your movement in. I know
Yeah.
whenever mine were really little and like maybe toddlers, I would go outside and like push them in the swing, but like do a squat and
Yeah, I love
swing.
that. Uh-huh.
And because
Get in
I
where
was
you
just
can.
like, I've got to, like, get back to myself, and,
Mhm.
I mean, that was something, but
Yeah.
I think the consistency is so important. What are some other ways that you would recommend taking care of your body postpartum?
So, I think if we're talking about postpartum specifically, I do think that the problem comes with most women just don't know what to do or where to start. So, you either get that they're, like, kind of completely overwhelmed by the new season, which is totally understandable, and they just kinda don't do anything, or they just get the green light at 6 weeks from their OB/GYN and then jump back into whatever they were doing beforehand and just kind of like go back full force. And neither of those things are super great. So if I was gonna break down postpartum into 3 steps, what I would tell women to do is the first thing you need to do after you have your baby is you need to reconnect with your body. And the way we do that is by, intentionally engaging our breath and our deep core muscles. So doing a lot of the, like, really slow work that nobody wants to do where you're, like, doing tummy time with your baby. Basically, you're laying on the ground, you're working on the deep breathing, you're working on re-engaging those core muscles. If you've had a C-section, you're kind of working on desensitizing your scar area, those things really slow. And then once you feel confident with that and you feel like you have some confidence in engaging your core muscles and doing this deep breathing, then I recommend you start rebuilding. That's generally what I recommend starting around the 6 week mark is it rebuilding, unless you've skipped the first step, in which case you need to do the first step. But and that is just like what you've been talking about, specific strength work for postpartum. So again, working on those deep core muscles, working on a lot of glute and lower body strength, and then a lot of upper body and back work. Because as you know, and I know if you're breastfeeding or carrying babies, you're doing a lot of forward motion by doing a lot of like back open, chest opening and back strengthening.
Back pain, that back
Man,
pain,
right?
when you breastfeed, you don't realize, like, how hunched over you
All
are.
the time. Mhm.
And it's I remember whenever I was nursing my first one, the lactation consultant was like, "You bring her to you."
Yes.
And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, "No, like, I'm just gonna get
It's
on
just
here."
easier.
And
That's
then but then, like, you do that and you're like, "Oh my goodness, I'm killing my back."
yes, and then you think about that and you do that for every day for a year or so,
Yeah,
and then you do that 3 times, like, you've spent 3 years of your life hunched over every day, like,
yeah,
so rebuilding strength, and then the third one, the final step that I say is then you can re-engage those kind of things, like, let's say you like to run, you can start running or you can start doing the classes that you like to do or a little bit more high intensity stuff. Your body can handle that if you have given it the foundation. I liken it a lot to, like, building a house, like, you gotta have the foundation first, and then you set up the walls, and then you kinda put in all the other stuff, so
yeah, I like that. Whenever you do work with moms postpartum,
mhm.
how soon could they come to you, or how soon do you start working with moms? Like,
Yeah.
do you start working with them typically, like, at the 6-week postpartum mark if they wanted to, or
Yeah, generally, I like for people to have like, a green light from their doctor before we get started, and usually that happens at the 6-week mark, but I recommend that women start that foundation work at 1 to 2 weeks. Some women feel great and they can start a week after, and you can start doing breath work and
Right.
core engagement. Or if you're feeling like you need more time, then 2 weeks. And I will say, after each of my pregnancies, I took longer to get started again. I think intentionally I started by 2 weeks every time. But after my first baby, I wanted to just get back to my body. So I was like, as soon as the baby came out, I was like, okay, what do I need to do to get started? And I learned to have more grace with myself over time. And like by my third, I gave myself 2 full weeks to be like, I'm just laying in bed and I'm just taking care of this baby for 2 weeks. And
Well,
then
and you had your other ones to take care of too. So, I
yeah,
mean,
so
you
it's
were
just harder to
occupied.
do it. Yeah. But yeah, so I generally like the 6 weeks, but I will say I do have a PDF guide that can be used prior to 6 weeks. And it's just like breath work, deep core mobility stuff that can be done safely before that 6 week mark. It's not any strength building, it's not any high intensity work. It's only just teaching you how to like re-engage your mind body connection. So
Yeah. That's awesome. Something that I've learned throughout my own experiences with birth and pregnancies, and then just talking to other moms, going into being pregnant and birth and postpartum is a whole event.
yes.
And I believe society has just normalized it to where it's like, okay, you just get an OBGYN and that's it. But
Mhm.
like, I think that if you really want to take advantage of the whole situation, like you should have a birth plan. You should have a doula. You should do postpartum workout therapy afterwards.
Uh-huh.
You should try a midwife. You should try a home birth. You should try
Yeah.
natural labor. You should try pelvic floor therapy.
Yeah.
Like
I get CPT.
there
Yeah.
are so many different amazing tools out there that like women just don't know about.
They don't know about them.
And I know like with my first baby, I had a scheduled C-section. She was a big baby, that's what I was told. I was told that we need to have a C-section, and I just went along with it. Like, you just go with what your OBGYN says, and
Well, it's
she
like you said earlier, like, you don't know what you don't know, And so, like
exactly.
and again, like, if people like us who have medical background knowledge about some of those things, like, the average woman absolutely is just
Right.
trust whatever their physician says that they need to do, which that's you wanna have a doctor you can trust. I think that's really important.
Yes.
But I preach all the time that, like, you cannot give informed consent if you're not informed. Like, you can't know what you're consenting to if you don't know what it is, and so I do think that it is really important that women know what's going on with their bodies during pregnancy, labor, postpartum, so that they can make educated decisions for themselves.
Right. It was literally 2 or 3 weeks before I had my second baby. I was 37 weeks and 5 days,
Mhm.
and I was in the La Leche League group because I had been breastfeeding my first one, and I remember asking in that group, like, "What are my birth rights?" Like, just
Mhm.
in general, because I didn't even know what that meant, and really because my doctor was like, "Okay, what day do you wanna come in and have your C-section?" And I remember thinking, "Well, why am I having another C-section?" Right?
Yeah, sure, huh?
And that's a whole story in itself, but I ended up doing a VBAC, and my body definitely was not prepared though, because I didn't know how to prepare
Uh-huh,
my body for
uh-huh,
an for a
uh-huh.
natural birth. But
Yeah.
all that to say, I learned the hard way through that one, like, which I applied all these things with my 3rd baby, like preparing your body for birth, exercising
Yeah.
throughout pregnancy,
Yes. Uh-huh.
and I was so much more prepared for that birth physically.
Mhm,
But after my 3rd baby, I had a midwife who was there with me throughout my pregnancy. I
mhm.
ended up having to go to the hospital for complications, but thankfully I had a really educated midwife who knew how to call that. But after the birth, like, I was home and my midwife was checking on me, right? Like,
Yeah,
the
mhm.
lactation consultants that I knew through La Leche League were coming over and checking on me. And, like, my doctor was still really connected with me too. I mean, she was, but her job isn't to check on you postpartum so much like a
Yeah.
midwife or a doula, or did she have time to tell me certain exercises to do postpartum,
Right,
you know?
right. Yeah, mhm.
And so I think if you don't know that those things are out there, obviously you don't know, but there's so many different
There's so many different resources, that is
there
for
are.
sure, and, I tell people I did a natural vaginal delivery the first time, the second time I had a doula with me, the third time I ended up getting an epidural, and so, like, I've kind of done it all the different ways, and you're exactly right in that. I say often that medical professionals are doctors, and that's great, but they're not trainers, and they're not physical therapists, and that's not their job, and they just don't learn that piece of it. They learn, like, basic anatomy and obviously physiology and all that, but you wouldn't want your doctor telling you what to do with your exercise because that's not how they're trained, right? it is a really great cultural shift that things are switching so that more women know that there is such thing as pelvic floor physical therapy and, like, you can see them, and you don't have to, like, just because you had a baby, not because you even are having any symptoms, but just the sheer fact that you were pregnant and had a child, then you qualify to, like, have some extra
Yeah.
help and support?
Right. So I had a doula with me during my second and third, but my doula, I think, is the one who said something about pelvic floor therapy. And at that point, with everything I experienced being just very different
Sure.
with that birth than what I had expected and changing my mind on the way I was going to birth 2 weeks before she was born, I was like, sure, we're trying new things. Sure,
Just
let's try
keep
all the new
trying it,
things.
yeah.
And so I did. I did the pelvic floor therapy and I was like, this might be a little weird, but I was very open to it. And it was so informative and helpful. And I'm
Yeah.
like, why? Why doesn't everybody do this?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but some
Yeah.
people just don't know what it is.
It
But
is. Mhm.
I
Yeah.
just, I think for some reason, I don't know why we have put just like our OBGYNs up here to
Sure.
tell us everything. But
Yeah.
I think
There is so much
having,
more out there now, and I think too, a lot of women, like, either don't know that exist or that we do run into a lot of, like, there's just they don't feel like they have time to, like, add one more thing onto their plate. They're caretakers for their kids, and a lot of women this day and age are, like, working full-time jobs and taking care of kids, and that's just, like there is, like, unfortunately, like, a lack of space sometimes to take care of yourself when that's going on, but I think that it's really important that we know too that, like, we're probably gonna have to deal with it at some point, right? Whether that is you're dealing with the consequences of not dealing with it, there's just, like, a lot of things that can manifest as consequences of not taking care of your body. So I do think that it can be hard to find the time, but you should kind of know that you're gonna deal with it one way or the other. If you don't deal with it now, you're probably gonna have to deal with it later, or you're gonna deal with the consequences of it. So trying
yeah.
your best to find your time and asking for help so that you can see those people and get that in for yourself. Again, it's just another marker of how moms, like, can take care of themselves in a season where they're just really pouring out for other people.
Yes, I completely agree with that. I know after I had my son, I was like, I feel like crap. And it was not just physically, but I had all the gut issues too.
Mhm.
But I was just not comfortable in my body. I was either hurting because I ate food or just like not satisfied with
Sure.
how I
Yeah.
felt.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, no, okay, I'm going to have to actually do the work today or tomorrow or in 10
Right.
years.
Someday. Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
I'm the kind of person where I'm like, if there's something I have to do, okay, let me go ahead and do it. I'm going to do the best I can at it and I'm going to get it done. And that's just like my mentality. It was 2020. I'm like, we're not doing anything else right now. So I kind of didn't have many excuses because
'Cause you were
we
just home.
weren't
Yeah.
going a ton of places and I wasn't working at the time because I was on maternity leave. And so I just like set up gym at my house and I was like, okay, there's no excuse. But I will say I feel like I did get lucky because I didn't have to go right back to work right away and it was 2020. So it's not like I
Sure.
had I wasn't taking the kids to Chick-fil-A because Chick-fil-A was closed. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't doing all of these things.
Right.
And
You're
we
just at
weren't
home. Yeah.
yeah, we were just at home, and I remember my son, like, he has been right there with me working out the entire time. Like, I'd be sitting there lifting weights, and he's nursing, and I'm just like, "It is what it is." But
Yeah.
that's all he knows. Like, that's all he knows, and so, like, I have set that example for them unintentionally. And so I'm really glad that I went ahead and, like, started implementing these things when I did instead of waiting till they're older and they have practice here and there, and I really don't have time, you
Right.
know?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So I think doing something now sounds good, gal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead and start. And exactly what you're saying. I think too, like, so many people feel like they have to have, like, a whole setup or a whole plan or like, and it's like, you just have to do something, like, you have to start somewhere, and it's not gonna be perfect, and you're gonna get interrupted. I mean, it's a little
Yeah.
bit better for me now because my kids are a little bit older, so they'll sleep until 7, and I can work out before they wake up, but, I mean, I went for years working out with my kids just around me, whether that was, like, a baby,
In a bassinet right there.
in a bassinet or like, my toddler is playing and I'm having to, like, stop in the middle and get out snacks or, like I mean, I feel like I go back and look at some of my old Instagram stories and just laugh. It's, like, me in my living room, like, lifting weights so my kids are, like, watching Daniel Tiger, and I'm like, I was literally trying to work out to Daniel Tiger. Like, that was, like
I
and
mean, yeah,
like So I think too there is the idea that like if it can't be this very specific thing, then I'm not gonna do it. And I think especially as moms, we kind of just have to know that like exactly like what we said when we very started, like you just gotta show up. Consistency has to be the only goal for that season of little people. Is like I'm just gonna show up and it's not gonna be perfect. And I may not even be like making a ton of progress, but consistency is what keeps you going for the long haul. It's what shows your kids exactly what you're saying. Like it brings your kids in and it shows them that you matter and you're taking care of yourself. And you will get to a stage quicker than you think you will, where like you can set goals and have mental capacity to challenge yourself. And if you've put in the work consistently over the time when it wasn't easy, then that's going to come a lot easier at that time
Yeah, for sure. And I think just lowering your expectations
for
and
everything,
motherhood in
right?
general, it is that
Every day.
you just have to, yeah, you really do. You have
You
to
really
just
do.
lower your expectations and almost just go with the flow with
Yeah.
everything.
You just have
So,
to know that, like, nothing's gonna turn out the way you think it's gonna turn out. And
no,
then if you do, then, like, that's that, you know? So
if it does, you were very lucky because I have found in my life that if I plan something, it is not going to go that way. So,
never the case. Yeah.
yeah.
I agree.
Becca, I know you primarily work with postpartum moms or moms of younger kids.
Mhm.
What does that look like? I know you talked about the 3 different kind of phases that you recommend right when they're postpartum.
So, honestly, if you've got little kids and you're coming to me and you haven't really done very much stuff, I'm probably still gonna start you at a rebuild phase. I'm gonna make sure that we are doing some sort of deep core engagement and working on those, what I call, like, mom muscles, glutes, upper back, deep core, like, all of those things are just so important for moms. And, my youngest is, like, over 3, and I'm still doing, like, deep core work once a week because we all need to have a strong core for, like, functionally being a mom, and you can't have abs if you don't have abs, so you have to work on them too, you know? So, if someone came to me that was, like, not, 6 weeks postpartum, like, let's say you haven't had been 2 years or 3 years since you've had a baby, you're still gonna get started with, like, a specific mom muscle building program, whether you take the PDF that I have or whether you work with me one on one and we do it that way. And then most of my clients that I train with, I do a combination of strength work and a little bit of like high intensity or conditioning, depending on where they're at in life and if that's something that they're interested in.
Okay, yeah. So it just kind of varies too, however long you work with them based on kind of what they want to.
Absolutely.
Okay. Becca, this has been an awesome conversation. Do you have anything else you want to leave us with today?
Yeah, one of my, like, biggest tips for moms on getting in your exercise is to have a plan and have a schedule. So if you are the kind of mom where you're just looking up YouTube workouts or you're on Pinterest like I was trying to find workouts, like, you're using your motivation and your energy and your time to just figure out what to do. So I suggest all moms get a plan, have a plan, whether that's even like, okay, I'm going to walk 3 days a week and that's my plan, or you work with a coach like me, or you get some sort of other plan from somebody online or whatever. Having a plan is like major first step. And then the second thing I tell moms to do is to put it in your calendar to schedule your workouts because it's so easy to just wake up and think like, "I'm gonna get it done today." And as we all know, like, our days all fall apart all the time for whatever reason. And so I tell moms to put it in their schedule, schedule a specific time when you're gonna get it done, whether that's 6 a.m. in the morning or, 10 a.m. while your kids are at school or 6 p.m. at night. Like whenever it is that you can get it in, write it on your calendar, put it in your schedule because that's going to take that mental load away too of you trying to find a time to do it. And then don't break promises you have to yourself. If you put it in your schedule and you said you were going to do it, you deserve to take care of yourself and do it. So make time and get it done. I find that if you take away the plan and the when I'm going to do it question, it just like really helps with the mental load of kind of always having it hanging over your head. It's just in there. You don't think about it. You do it when it comes up because that's when you're going to do it. So I feel like that's super helpful for moms that are carrying a lot of mental load.
Yeah, that's great. I like that idea. And I know that's helped me putting it on my calendar. That's what I do. It's always a good reminder.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been awesome, Becca. Thank you so much for sharing all of your expertise and
You're
insight here.
welcome. It's been so
This was
fun.
fun. Yes. Thank you for being a part of my journey on What the Gut podcast. For a deeper dive into today's topics, head over to allisonandwellness.com/whatthegut or find the detailed show notes linked below. Hey, and don't miss out on future episodes. Hit that subscribe button, and if you love this one, please leave me a review. Let's keep the conversation going over on Instagram. Connect with me and stay updated and engaged with my awesome community. Plus, share these valuable insights with your tribe. They deserve to feel as amazing as you do. You can find me at Allison_and_wellness on Instagram. Your support means the world to me. I'm looking forward to our next awesome chat. But until then, stay curious, don't drink too much coffee, keep the vibrant energy flowing, and take care of your gut. Catch you real soon. Oh, and hey, if you're ready to dive deeper into personalized wellness, check out my one-on-one health coaching program at AllisonandWellness.com. Let's make your journey to holistic health truly transformative.